I took down an interesting video a few months ago after 90,000 views because it got flagged for some adult content, either Mel's boobies or Daenerys Targaryen's hiney, something like that. So I took that stuff out, changed a few things, and added a few things. Here's part 1 of 2. A very common question and arguably a common misconception. Is Dany immune to fire? In the books, she definitely is not. She gets burnt. And in the show, she might be, but I don't think so. She unknowingly used magic to defy death. George R. R. Martin alluded to this offline in an interview. The question is, will nature have the last say? Will Dany's reckoning come due in Season 8? Or even worse, will Dany be sentenced to death because all men and women must die? In the show, Dany walked butt naked into a really hot tub. She picked up one of the dragon eggs after it was heated in a brazier. Then she survived a burning pyre when she hatched the dragons. And last, Dany survived another huge fire when she killed the Khals, unifying the Khalasars and effectively becoming the stallion who mounts the world. What about in the books? Dany enjoyed scalding hot baths 3 times, and she survived Drogo's funeral pyre. Here's one that did not happen in the show. In the books, Drogon attacked her when he flew into the fighting pits of Meereen. So in the books and the show alike, Dany liked scalding hot baths. Then again, so did Catelyn Stark. So that does not prove that Dany is immune to heat or fire. But this next one says something. Dany grabbed an egg off of the brazier. The egg was very hot, yet the egg did not burn Dany, and it did burn Irri. So we don't have proof that Dany is fireproof, but between the hot bath and the dragon eggs, at the very least, Dany is more heat resistant than others. We see something similar with Ned Stark though. Ned could withstand colder temperatures better than most. As an example, after making love, Lord Eddard would go over to the window in his birthday suit and he'd open up the tapestries. When he would do this, Catelyn would hide below the furs of the bed and she thought, Starks are made for the cold. So the Starks were made for the cold and the Valyrians were made for the heat. But Starks can still freeze to death and Targaryens can still burn. We've seen that many times in past stories like the Dance of the Dragons. And even Dany can burn. George R. R. Martin once said, Targaryens are not immune to fire. The birth of Dany's dragons was unique, magical, wondrous, a miracle. She is called the Unburnt because she walked into the flames and she lived. But her brother sure as hell wasn't immune to that molten gold. The interviewer then asked him, so she won't be able to do it again? And George R. R. Martin responded, probably not. But in the show, she did do it again. She survived another huge fire at Vaisdoth Rock when she burnt the Khals. So she's not fireproof in the books, according to George R. R. Martin. But is she fireproof in the show? That's your call. I don't think so though, and like I said earlier, this distinction may prove to be important. It's important to know how she survived the 2 fires, because the way she did it might be a clue to her tragic fate, part of the bittersweet ending, a reason that Daenerys Targaryen needs to die. Let's quickly look at the 2 examples of Dany getting burnt in the books. First, at Khal Drogo's pyre. Her hair burnt off in the books. But they didn't do that in the show, most likely because many fans, myself included, are pretty superficial. And the second time she got burnt was when Drogon attacked her when he showed up at the fighting pits in Meereen. So she can definitely be burnt in the books. But like we said, she survived 2 big fires in the show. How did she do it? Magic. Specifically, blood sacrifice. George R. R. Martin said that Dany made up the magic as she went along when she was hatching the dragons. The magic was barely under control and half instinctive. So Dany did not know what she was doing, but she was doing magic and it's the only reason that she survived. So let's try to dissect the magic as best we can. Every time that Dany survived these miracles, there was a common factor. Other people were dying. Other people were being burned. Mary warned Dany that blood magic is not a game for children. But just like Sansa in Season 7, a girl can learn, and Dany did. Dany even thanked Miri for teaching her before she killed her. What did she teach her? Miri taught her that only death can pay for life. Dany did not care for Miri's screams, only her life. These are some pretty obvious clues about Dany stealing Miri's life. So Dany embraced Miri's life fire. She let it in. Meanwhile, Dany confronted the spirits of the dead at Drogo's pyre. In a way, Dany married the figurative dragon. She accessed magic through instinct and self-belief with a capital B. And here's one of my favorite lines in the entire story. Dany leveraged powers older and truer than hatred. Which, of course, I think she's referring to love. So Mary's death paid for Dany's life, and for the first time in hundreds of years, the night came alive with the music of dragons. Presumably, something similar happened with the Khals. They died, but she lived. Their debts paid for her life. Only death can pay for life. It was magical, but it was unnatural. All men must die. Some people live a long time though, like Mel, so the question is, when will destiny catch up to Dany? And will someone like Arya decide that Dany cheated the many-faced god, the god of death?